Good evening. Welcome to California Today. I'm David Zhang. Here is a preview of some of today's top stories. Newly released surveillance video shows a security guard fatally shooting a suspected shoplifter out of self-defense. The city's district attorney is not filing charges. With the Justice Department's aim to protect U.S. technology, it recently charged a former Apple engineer of stealing trade secrets from the company, who then fled to China. A Southern California charter school still has a student vaccine mandate. Parents recently rallied to urge the school board to remove the policy. We have an update on the San Francisco Walgreens shooting. The district attorney recently released a surveillance video on Monday showing the moments leading up to an on-duty Walgreens security guard shooting and killing a suspected shoplifter. This comes after the DA decided not to file charges against the guard.
District Attorney Brooke Jenkins released the information amid public outcry over the April 27th death of Banco Brown, an unarmed 24-year-old who was suspected of shoplifting at Walgreens. Jenkins cited self-defense in her decision not to charge the guard, Michael Earl Wayne Anthony. Newly released footage shows Brown heading for the door with a bag in his hand when he was stopped by Anthony, who then punches him repeatedly. The two struggle until Anthony pins Brown to the ground. When Anthony lets Brown go, Brown picks up the bag and moves to exit the store. He turns around and appears to step toward Anthony, at which point Anthony lifts his gun and shoots once, sending Brown falling back onto the ground outside. In a police interview, Anthony said he told Brown to put the items back, but Brown was aggressive and fought to keep the items. He said he told Brown he would let him go if he calmed down, and that Brown kept saying he was going to stab him. A knife was not found on Brown. Anthony said he let Brown go, but he drew his gun and kept it pointed at the ground just in case Brown attacked. He said he shot when Brown advanced, not realizing Brown would just spit at him. In a statement, San Francisco Supervisor Shaman Walton said the video does not show justification for the shooting. He plans to call on the state attorney general for an independent review of the prosecutor's decision. But Jenkins claims the guard's self-defense was reasonable.
On Tuesday, the DOJ announced several criminal cases tracing the illegal flow of technology out of the U.S. This includes sending aircraft to Russian companies, as well as indicting a former Apple employee for stealing trade secrets for China. NTD's David Lam reports.
The Justice Department revealed 5 criminal cases Tuesday tracing the illegal flow of sensitive technology, including Apple's software code for self-driving cars and materials used for missiles to foreign adversaries like Russia, China, and Iran.
2 of the 5 cases involve dismantling alleged procurement networks created to help the Russian military and intelligence services obtain sensitive technologies in violation of U.S. export control laws.
In another case, a former software engineer from Apple was accused of stealing proprietary data before his last day at the company in 2018. Then, investigators searched Weibo Wang's home and found Apple's source code on his devices. He flew to China after.
Unfortunately, the same evening as that search warrant was served, at approximately 8:34 that evening, he was able to purchase a one-way ticket and fly out that same night at 11:55 as alleged in the indictment.
2 other cases charged former software engineers with stealing software and hardware source code from U.S. tech companies in order to market it to Chinese competitors, including, in one of the cases, Chinese state-owned enterprises.
The 35-year-old engineer Wang accepted a U.S.-based job with a Chinese company working to develop self-driving cars before resigning from Apple. The stolen code was alleged to be trade secrets used by the U.S. company to develop automated cars and advance automated manufacturing equipment.
It's China, it's Russia, it's Iran, North Korea. And as Assistant Attorney General Olson said, those threats come in a variety of ways, but one of them that is pressing and persistent is the attempts by those governments to acquire U.S. technology in order to try to advance their military capabilities so that it can leapfrog ours.
Some of the alleged theft dates back several years, but officials are drawing attention now to highlight the work of a task force created this year to disrupt the transfer of goods to foreign countries. Other cases disclosed Tuesday have resulted in arrests, including 64-year-old Li Ming Li for allegedly stealing sensitive files from his California employer.
For years, Mr. Li worked at two companies in Southern California that were in the business of creating software used in what is known as smart manufacturing. This is advanced technology for making sophisticated equipment, including parts for nuclear submarines and military aircraft.
He's been in federal custody and has a hearing on May 22nd. The suspect involved in the Apple data theft faces up to 10 years in prison and a $250,000 fine, or twice the amount of his gain, for each count of theft. And additionally, 2 Russian nationals were arrested for scheming to send aircraft parts to Russian companies. David Lamb, NTD News, California.
A charter school in Southern California is gaining attention for choosing to still keep its student vaccine mandate. Parents and community members rallied in front of the high school as the school board met in person for the first time in 3 years.
On Monday, the Granada Hills Charter, or GHC, governing board met in person on campus for the first time in 3 years. But outside Granada Hills Charter High School, some parents and community members gathered to advocate for medical freedom and eliminating the student vaccine mandate.
But one thing missing from that agenda is any consideration of the student vaccination mandate. That needs to come down. The national state of emergency just ended on May 11th. There is literally no emergency left to require the use of an emergency use authorization product.
One parent said last year unvaccinated students were separated from their vaccinated peers.
One of the things that we want them to understand is that they need to allow these kids to come to school. Last year, 70 students had to stand outside on this very sidewalk to graduate, while the rest of their classmates graduated outside on the John L. Way football field. When is it that they're going to remove this ridiculous mandate?
The school's vaccine mandate is modeled after LAUSD's policies, which deny religious exemptions.
In the fall of 2021, Granada Hills Charter came out with this vaccination mandate that they said was modeled on the LA Unified's mandate. But unfortunately, when LA took down its own mandate, Granada Hills did not. And they persisted in enforcing this mandate, which saw them kicking kids off campus, out of school, out of sports, out of activities.
GHC's current policies as of April 3rd include requiring the jabs for admission to campus for in-person classes, athletic games, and indoor events such as dances and performances. But vaccines are not required for visitors or non-GHC students. NTD reached out to GHC for a comment.
Also in Southern California, the rise in illegal street takeovers has prompted the Pico Rivera City Council to take action. The city recently announced its tentative approval of an ordinance that will crack down and deter illegal activities.
The Pico Rivera City Council announced on May 10th its tentatively approved ordinance designed to crack down on illegal street takeovers. In a statement, Councilman John Garcia says the proposed ordinance will provide additional tools and resources to deter such activities and ensure that the roadways remain safe. He says, quote, "By taking action, we are sending a strong message that illegal street takeovers will not be tolerated in Pico Rivera, and that the safety and well-being of its residents and visitors are paramount to the City Council." According to the proposed ordinance, anyone present at a location where an illegal street race or takeover is occurring or being planned will be guilty of a misdemeanor and subject to fines of up to $2,000 and other possible penalties. City officials also warned that any motor vehicles involved in the illegal activity will be, quote, "seized and subject to forfeit." Vehicles that are ultimately forfeited will be sold by the city at a public auction. The ordinance will return for a final vote at a future meeting once a date has been scheduled.
We'll take a short break now, but here's a look at what we have for you when we come back. Dogs are a man's best friend, so much that the FDA has updated their food regulation. Four-legged friends are now allowed to dine with their owners outside. Prices have jumped about 17% on average in California. It's one of the highest in the country since 2020. Ever wonder what an officer's day is like? Two Los Angeles officers provide insight as part of their LAPD Up Close episodic series. Those stories and more coming up on California Today. Welcome back to California Today. I'm your host, David Zhang. Just in time for the summer dining season, the U.S. government has issued a new guidance saying restaurants can have dogs in their outdoor spaces. Nearly half of states already allow canine dining outdoors.
The U.S. Drug and Food Administration's updated food code, issued late last year, says restaurants could have dogs in outdoor areas as long as they have approval from a local regulator. With the exception of service dogs, canines still shouldn't be allowed indoors at restaurants.
So all the dogs are welcome here. We do a Monday night dog night specifically on the patio, so all the dogs can kind of commune together. It's their night out in the city. And you get $10 off a bottle of wine when you bring in your dog. But they're welcome out in the parklet, in the back patio, and considering we live in San Francisco where dogs outnumber children, it's a good time to bring your dog out.
The FDA also says restaurants that wish to welcome dogs should develop plans to handle them, including providing receptacles for pet waste, ensuring that dogs remain properly restrained, and providing separate food bowls so that dogs don't use plates or utensils meant for humans. The food code is only meant to provide guidance, but many states use it to develop their own laws and regulations. The new guidance comes as U.S. pet ownership is rising.
I think it's great for business. People really enjoy bringing their dog out with them. I mean, we live in a city that not a lot of people have backyards, that their dogs can just be outside all the time. So it's kind of built into the structure of like, let's go take the dog for a walk, let's stop and have a bite to eat, grab a glass of wine, they get outside, people give them attention, and it's kind of just a win all around.
According to the American Pet Products Association, nearly 87 million U.S. households now have a pet, up from 85 million in 2019. And experts say more people are looking for dining options that will accommodate their dogs.
I didn't know it wasn't okay elsewhere. I observed outdoors I always thought was part of sort of the rules. Here or in a park or anywhere else, I think it's beholden on the owner to keep it safe. So I don't think whether or not someone happens to be sitting down for a meal changes that.
That's fantastic. And what that will allow is for people like me who have dogs and love to travel to go to other states and sit outside and eat, which means I can now bring my dog when I travel, which is amazing.
Yelp says searches for businesses using the Dogs Allowed filter jumped 58% between May 2021 and May 2023. Over 47,000 businesses now describe themselves as dog-friendly on Yelp.
Population declines continue to plague the Golden State. According to experts, high taxes, burdensome regulations on affordable housing costs, and increasing crime rates remain the main reasons.
According to the California Department of Finance, the state's population dipped 0.4% from January 2022 compared to the same time this year. The number of residents is below 39 million for the first time since 2015. Los Angeles has the largest decline. The city lost nearly 37,000 residents between 2022 and 2023. The second most is Anaheim. While some areas saw growth, the overarching trend for the state was negative. Approximately 140,000 fewer people live in California in 2023 compared to last year. This is the result of around 230,000 people having left the state, offset by 90,000 new immigrant residents. According to experts, high taxes, burdensome regulations, unaffordable housing costs, and increasing crime rates are the main reasons for those choosing to flee the state. IRS data shows the most popular destinations for ex-Californians are Texas and Florida.
California has experienced one of the highest levels of inflation in the nation since 2020. A recent report shows that prices have increased by 17% on average. According to a recent report from the state's Legislative Analyst's Office, California has experienced one of the highest levels of inflation in the nation since 2020. Prices jumped 17% on average. Costs are up in every category. Volatile energy prices were 49% higher than their norm in June 2022. Food prices remain 23% higher than in January 2020. Other services such as rent and shelter have gone up nearly 15%. Following the data released by Bureau of Labor Statistics, Representative Michelle Steele wrote on Twitter that inflation is costing average California families $967 per month, and approximately 6 in 10 in the nation are living paycheck to paycheck. While inflationary levels have retreated overall from peaks in 2022, data indicates leveling at vaulted prices across the board, and the impact on the consumer is beginning to take a toll. The Port of Long Beach announced its ambitious plans that will help California and the nation to reach its renewable energy targets. The project would manufacture offshore wind turbines standing as tall as the Eiffel Tower.
The Port of Long Beach offered more details on its plans for a floating offshore wind facility. Port officials said on May 9th the facility would support the manufacturing of offshore wind turbines. It would be the largest facility at any U.S. seaport specifically designed to accommodate the assembly of wind turbines. Port of Long Beach Executive Director Mario Cordero says, as society transitions to clean energy, our harbor is ideally located for such an enterprise. With calm seas behind a federal breakwater, one of the deepest and widest channels in the U.S., direct access to open ocean and no air height restrictions, no other location has the space to achieve the economies of scale needed to drive down the cost of energy for these huge turbines. Officials say that the $4.7 billion project would create new jobs for the communities closest to the port, and that construction would start as early as January 2027. The facility would span up to 400 acres of newly built land southwest of the Long Beach International Gateway Bridge. The Pure Wind project is aimed at reaching renewable energy goals in the coming decades for both the state and the rest of the nation.
The Los Angeles police released a ride-along interview from its Hollenbeck division in early May. As part of an LAPD up-close episode, meet Officer Cepeda and Officer Smith.
I'm Officer Cepeda, Patrol Officer 2, Hollenbeck Division, Watch 3.
I'm Keone Smith, and I'm a Police Officer 3 at Hollenbeck Division. So we met working the gang enforcement detail here at Hollenbeck. We're in patrol and we stayed being partners since then.
I think between me and my partner, we always push each other. The thing that I can take from my partner is that he's always, with that knowledge, coming to me and pushing me, like, all right, let's go do it.
I think that's important. He does the same thing for me too. Like he brings that motivation. He, no matter what's going on, we're always pushing to try to rid the community of that fear of crime.
A lot of times when you're out in the vehicle with your partner, you can discuss tactics prior, but at the same time, when something happens so quickly, you guys already know, you guys kind of have a rhythm of what to do and what you guys need to do to back each other up, and you got to work off each other, you feed off each other's actions. Who's going to be a contact officer, who's going to be a cover officer, if they only speak Spanish at the location. It's different things like that where you can discuss with your partner, and it's going to be a better working machine where you get to that location and handle the problem. You learn how to communicate without really saying anything.
Yeah, the more like water you can be, the more adaptable you can be. I think that's what really makes a better police officer. The more situations, more incidents, and more things you become exposed to, the more, the better understanding you have of it the next time it occurs.
LAPD said that after the interview, Officer Smith was awarded the Human Relations Medal for his service. Now let's check in with NTD's Carlos Reyes for our sports roundup.
we have some exciting scores to cover today. This is your California Sports Roundup, and I'm Carlos Reyes.
Shohei Ohtani crushed a 3-run homer, finished a double away from hitting for the cycle, and picked up the win on the mound as Los Angeles earned a victory over host Baltimore. Ohtani went 4 for 5 with 3 RBIs, 3 runs, and a walk to offset a night in which he allowed a career-high tying 3 homers over 7 innings. The right-hander yielded a season-high 5 tying runs on 4 hits. Ohtani became the first starting pitcher to reach base 5 times in a game since the Yankees' Mel Stottlemyre against the Washington Senators in September of 1964. Chad Wallach went 3 for 5 with a solo homer, and Gio Urshela went 2 for 4 with 2 RBIs for the Angels. Adam Frazier and Anthony Santander each hit a 2-run homer, and Cedric Mullins added a solo shot for the Orioles. Angels 9, Orioles 5. Michael Wacha took a no-hitter into the 8th inning as San Diego snapped a 5-game losing streak with a win over visiting Kansas City. Wacha struck out a career-high 11 and faced 2 hitters over the minimum through 7 innings before Michael Massey opened the 8th with a line drive single to the right. That was the last batter for Wacha, who gave up 1 hit, 1 walk, and hit 1 batter over 7+ innings. Nick Martinez completed the 2-run shutout. Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado, and Ha-Seong Kim each drove in a run. Royal starter Brad Keller gave up 3 runs and walked 8 in 3 innings. Padres 4, Royals 0. Trace Thompson worked a bases-loaded walk in the 12th inning as host Los Angeles recovered in the late innings following multiple blown leads to extend their winning streak to 6 games by beating Minnesota. Max Muncy hit 2 home runs, and Will Smith also went deep as the Dodgers won despite failing to hold an early 4-run lead and a 3-run advantage in the 8th. They also blew a 1-run lead in the 9th before rallying from a 1-run deficit in the 10th. Christian Vasquez had 3 hits and a bases-loaded walk in the 10th inning for the Twins. Jorge Polanco had a home run among his 3 hits for Minnesota, while Trevor Larnach hit a 3-run home run in the 8th inning to tie the score at 6-6. Dodgers 9, Twins 8. Michael Conforto homered, singled, and drove in 3 runs to lift host San Francisco past Philadelphia. Casey Schmidt added 2 hits while Mitch Haniger and Brandon Crawford each had an RBI single for the Giants, who snapped a 3-game losing streak. Scott Alexander threw 1 scoreless inning in relief, and Camilo Doval got the last 4 outs for his 9th save. Alec Baum hit a home run, a double, a sacrifice fly, and had 3 RBIs for the Phillies, who have dropped 2 in a row following a 5-game winning streak. Giants 6, Phillies 3.
That is it for today's roundup. I'm Carlos Reyes. Thank you for watching.
Thanks, Carlos, and that's all we've got for you tonight. We would like you to join us again on California Today every weekday at 8:30 p.m. Make sure to check out our broadcasts on our California Today webpage. You can find it at ntd.com/California-today. You can also find all of our top latest clips there, ready to share with friends and family. Send us a message on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, or through our email, california.today@ntd.com. I'm David Zhang. Have a wonderful evening.